Hey, welcome back. This is an exciting one here. We have a knife. I did find this on the secondary market, sold as like new. This was never carried or anything like that. Let me just go ahead and take this off the screen for a second to avoid any potential personal information from showing. And there it is. Gosh. What a cool knife maker Craig Brown is. And that is FSD milling style number 3. So if you're not familiar, the Brown knives are limited. This FSD series went to, hang on, let me see if I can get the number real quick. They did a total of prototypes plus 300 knives, 301. So 301, 2, 3, 4, 5. 305 of these were made, including the prototypes. This is number 249. It's a 20 CV model, which are definitely more rare than the CPM 154 from what I've seen. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they're less common based on what I've seen. And let's just see how it is. There's some variation in this lineup around how they made them, when they made them, and so on. Or how he, I guess, because I think it's a one-man shop. A little mysterious. I don't really know for sure or not. I'd have to do a little more research than I have. But, you know, I've been pursuing these knives because the maker is very close to where I live. I live in Bellingham, Washington. He's up in Blaine, Washington, 25, 30 minutes from my house. North, that's the last city. If you don't know Blaine, Washington, that's the last city before you get to Canada if you're in the state of Washington. And, you know, it's just a very limited set of knives that get made here. So let me show you all 3 styles now that I have all 3. I grabbed a couple of the others. So here's milling style 1. It's probably the most popular, the most common, and the most well-liked from what I've seen. I think everyone has different preferences and so on, but just objectively speaking, I think this is not objectively speaking, but just based on what I've seen out there, this is the most common from what I've seen. This is milling style 2. This is actually pretty close in style, I think, to this one, which is interesting. They're not so different that I'm kind of surprised he did the 3rd pattern. You can see this is an older one. It's number 84, and it has a little bit of a different button than these two. This is number 204, and this is number 249, and they have these buttons with the little hollowed out area here, whereas this earlier variant has the flat button, so the newer ones give you a little more purchase. All of them, again, say Blaine, Washington, USA here on the inside, and let's just take a look at what we got. These are not known for being terribly sharp from the factory, so I can't assess the use of the knife based off of the edge because just so many of them came without a very impressive edge. This one seems like it's got a pretty good edge up until about here. And then it's pretty dull at the tip. But let's just give it a quick test. It's always kind of fun to see what you got on a Brown knife because they are so inconsistent. So yeah, even the bottom of the knife isn't that good. It gets good maybe a little further up here. And then the tip, again, you could feel it's very dull. So it's kind of an interesting quirk of the series. Oh, sorry, I'm not even testing the new one that just came in. That's what I was saying, like these actually look, you know, they're definitely different, right? They're varied on the pattern and stuff, but they're so similar to me that it's kind of interesting that he did this 3rd pattern because it's not all that different. Now this edge feels a little more consistent, but no better. Kind of funny. Again, not paper cutting sharp from the factory. I don't know what the reason was for that. Just right up here on both knives is a little sharper. I don't know what the reason was. Maybe he decided to let people put their own kind of edge on it, or not his specialty. I don't know. Very weird little quirk of this FSD series, and I don't know what either the logic was or what the error was behind that, but it's an interesting little nuance there for a collector like myself to note, and it's consistent like not every single one of them, but almost every one that I've gotten from him. Now, very popular in the lineup is the mini FSD. I've been able to get my hands on one of those. I've been able to get quite a few of these FSDs at this point. The mini FSD, I think, is one that more people would carry and so on, so it's got a bit broader appeal. And he came out with this new milling pattern. I think this is called pattern number 2 in the mini FSD series. There's a sort of a horizontal one. It doesn't fade off like this. It just stays sort of the same size all the way down. And this is I should say there's a vertical pattern like this as pattern number 1. Pattern number 2 has this this horizontal one here, or yeah, I'll call it that. Horizontal. Yeah, sure. And you know, I've said it like on some of my other videos. I do like this one a lot, and I think it's a better all-around package, certainly for an EDC. But for fidgetiness, I actually really like the big ones because the way it kind of hits in your palm, you get a little more. This one kind of gets swamped up in your palm a little when you're trying to get to it. It can kind of get a little swimmy in there, at least for me. Obviously, hand size will vary, but these big ones, you really get into the right part of it. You can hold it and just get a really nice brace in your hand and get a really nice spidey flick out of it. So I'm a pretty big fan of these full-size FSDs. And I'd say the one other thing worth noting is that somewhere along the line, and I don't know what model number it starts or ends at, but somewhere along the line, he changed a few elements, whether it's this guy, maybe the detent and so on. There's some like little quirks early on that got worked out along the way. I'm kind of curious if this is all the same. I think everything looks pretty much the same here. Everything looks pretty much the same here except for the button. It's pretty unchanged in general, but the button's a little different. And I think some of the way that the knife was built on the detent and stuff is just a little different on the later variants versus some of the early variants. So really cool pattern. It's kind of, I don't know what for some reason the word zombie-like is coming to mind. I don't know if there's some other thing that's reminding me of, but this one, again, kind of reminds me of like a Demco 8020. It just kind of has that feel to it, the smaller milled pattern. This one, kind of tool-like to me. Reminds me of something I might grab in the garage and sort of a tool-like handle, whether it's like a hammer or I don't know what that reminds me of exactly, but something tool-like. And this one sort of just has a feel to it of being a little more decorative. You know, it reminds me of something of like, I don't know, something out of Spain or Italy or, you know, something a little more decorative. That's kind of the sense I get when I look at it. Maybe even Mexico, I don't know. It just reminds me of some sort of, you know, Spanish styling or something along those lines. I can't quite place it, but it has its own unique thing. This one's kind of mind-bending. They've each got their kind of uniqueness. And again, I think these two styles, a lot of people have really gravitated towards, you know, what's going on with these two. And I think these two are a little more rare and a little more, a little less broad appeal, but still very nice and very appealing, very cool looking knives. So I think this is it for me. I've got all 3 patterns of the FSD now, which is something I set out to do. I'll probably let go 1 or 2 of my FSDs. If you're dying to have one, get in touch with me. That's not going to be the easiest one to pry from my collector hands, but I might let 1 or 2 of those go. I haven't made that decision yet, so don't jump to conclusions, but now that I have these 3, it kind of rounds out what I was looking for. I'll just pull one more out because a big part of what Brown has done was anodized a lot of his knives, and it's kind of cool to note that I do have this pattern number 2 in like a bronze ano, and it's just kind of, he's done a lot of blue and blurple and all sorts of stuff, and I've kind of said it before in the videos, it's very hard to get this color showing. it looks more gold on the video. It looks like a little bit of a hybrid gold, rose gold in person, where different angles, and you can kind of tell in the video, but different angles get slightly different colors out of it and stuff. It's not a huge, like, not a huge color variation based on angle, like some of the ones I've seen that he's done, like blue and purple completely change from different angles. But there is a little bit of like red underlying, like almost like a rose gold underlying the bronze that makes this one pretty cool. This one is the one I've actually just recently emailed him. I haven't heard back yet. I think I just emailed him yesterday or 2 days ago about getting this detent fixed. This is number 54. Again, you can see the early button variation. Let's see if there's anything else we note here. I think the rest of it looks pretty much the same again. But this one has just a really light detent. Like that is, if I'm going off of percentages of thumb power, 5%, maybe 10% strength. I'd say probably 5% strength and that thing comes out. If I'm down here, I mean, you can sneeze that thing out. Again, pinky, you can see how barely doing anything there and it pops out. So you can actuate it, it still works. I'd say it probably works a little better from the flipper, given that you don't have the detent. It makes the flipper really easy and fidgety and easy to do. It makes the front flipper really, actually the front flipper is a little harder. You have to like really move your finger fast because you can't load up on it. So you just have to like quickly move your finger to make this thing front flip. You can see I'm missing it. But it's pretty easy to fail the reverse flick on this one because the detent is so light. And the way that he designed it, which I really like, is that the detent, again, I think I've done this on another video and I need to go look at this offline. The detent ball, I think, stays still. You can probably see that there. I think that's the detent ball there. That's on this modular piece, but that piece is modular. So I feel like it wouldn't be hard to, I don't know what you need to do, but maybe adjust this piece. The lock bar is what rotates with the knife. Is that correct? There's the stop pin. Something rotates with the blade, and I'm trying to remember what it is, because the lock bar, I guess, is this liner lock that kind of pops up into there. Let's see if we can tell. It's kind of hard to see in there. There's a lot going on. I guess it's maybe I'm thinking of the stop pin or something that rotates with the blade. But I don't know the full depth of the engineering of this. What I do know is I really appreciate that that piece that does all of this is replaceable and it's not built into the frame. You can see that would be much less expensive to replace that piece of metal than the entire frame if something were to go wrong with it. So I'm hoping to get a response from him. I know he's busy doing a whole custom series of knives that dropped a couple weeks back. But hopefully I hear back and maybe he's willing to work on that, or at least tell me go for it, just open it up and bend something or whatever, give me some advice on how to get it fixed. So that'd be great. That's it for now. I feel very lucky to have found all of these. I obviously worked very hard to be able to do this in such a short period of time. If you follow my collection, I didn't have these 60 days ago. I'd been watching, but I hadn't, lightning hadn't struck yet. And then I got the first one, and then things just opened up. I started putting out, the right conversations, got in the right conversations, got into the right channels and stuff, and really went all in on collecting the browns like I have with Demco and a few other brands. So it is a very, very cool day to sort of finalize my FSD collection. They don't make the FSD anymore. If you're not familiar, the mini FSD is what's in production now. Knives like the Brown LHCX, the Cortex, and others are no longer in production. He just stops making them at a certain point. I don't know if he'll go back and do them later, or work with a manufacturer to do them later, or what his plans are. But I can just tell you that based on broad market or general availability, everything you see here is no longer in production, and it's cool as a collector to be able to grab those. And then we'll see where he goes. He's doing his first custom run on the mini FSD, so it's going to be really cool to see some colors and variations come out. I talked to a friend that won on the drop, and he was able to pick the hardware. He was able to pick the pocket clip color, the handle color, the backspacer color. So all of those would be able to be anode in a single anodized color is what he told me. So that's really cool. I'm excited for him to get that going, and I'm trying to convince him to sell it to me. I would love to get, he's going with the pattern number 1, and I'd love to get pattern number 1 into the collection on the Mini to start that Mini collection going beyond the single one. This one's really cool though, and I've not been as driven to collect the Minis. First of all, there's not a lot of variation. There's really just the 2 handles. Second, you know, the colors, there are a couple that have been dropped in colors, I think, on the prototypes, but he's only the first 100 general availability. I don't think they had almost any that were colored. There may be 2 or 3 Minis that came with anodized colors, as an FYI. You can go check out the archives on brownknives.com for yourself and learn all this stuff. I've obviously spent a couple hours on there, if you can tell. But really cool knives. Really glad to get this one in the collection, and I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what I may have missed, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.